the question now is really whether rent control would make housing in Montgomery County more affordable. I'll start with you, Sam.
Yeah, the only thing that we've got going for us in Montgomery County is that we have a lot of increase within jobs, which produces a need for housing. And when you get to apartment buildings, the landlords are required to put in affordable housing units. But then it becomes a question of what really and truly is affordable. And I, in my heart, would love to see more affordable housing in this county, but I just don't know where we're going to get it unless it's some type of a subsidized program.
Now, let me come back. I mean, the job growth has been, to say the very least, rather tepid for the last couple of years. You're saying that it's job creation that's creating the demand for housing or the shortage of housing?
But what I'm saying is if you look at the population, like I'm doing at redistricting, and you look at the growth, we grow 10% a year over a 10-year period. That's not too bad. And now you look at policies that are going into effect within Montgomery County. We're becoming a biotech center. We're becoming an educational center. We have groups moving into areas like White Flint. We have the 29 corridor with healthcare, and those types of facilities need jobs. So the county, as well as employers and educators, are coming together to put in educated workforces in. These companies are growing. They need to live. They're going to have they're going to have more than median required incomes, and that will lead to more need for apartments and rental space. And the question is the affordability of it.
I guess, I mean, the issue obviously is there are other parts of the country that have grown much faster than Montgomery County that don't have the affordability problem that Montgomery County. So that may be a separate conversation. But what we certainly have seen in the last year is inflation is on the rise. And as a consequence, rents are expected to accelerate. And that's what's one of the things that's been driving this proposal for more rent control. Bill, does rent control work? Will it make housing more affordable?
Of course not on both questions, but let's start. Sam mentioned subsidized housing. Let's be realistic about what really counts as subsidized housing. A lot of it. If you've gotten a home based on, or an apartment, condo with an FHA loan program, it's subsidized. Now you might say, well, it's just loan guarantees, but no, it's a subsidy that's being provided. So there's a lot of subsidizing, and the subsidizing is leading to a lot more absurdity, such as, number one, high down payments being required, and a lot of restrictions on what you can do, how you can do it in terms of mortgage. That's helping to price younger people out of being able to purchase homes and condos. That's making the entire thing out of whack. The number one thing we need to do is stop subsidizing. The number two thing we need to do is get as far away from any form of rent control as possible. Think about two things. Number one, it costs just about the same to build a low-end rent-controlled apartment as it does to build a high-end apartment. The main things are going to be different are the stuff like appliances. So maybe you have a really nice stainless steel stove here versus a lower-end stove there. It's not that much of a difference. Number two, you also need to think about what the results have been. In New York City, for example, in some rent-controlled apartments, they have one entrance for everybody, except those of you on rent control, when you have the dumpy entrance on the other side of the building. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to live that way. I'd actually like to make enough money to afford to live there in the first place. The closer we get to the free market, the less and less question there's going to be about the ability of people to afford to live in Montgomery County or anywhere else.
So let me come back to you, Sam. And one of the things you're talking about, a lot of growth from businesses coming into Montgomery County. I'm struck, though, that at least anecdotally, I'm familiar, I don't know the data, but that many Montgomery County residents have used the COVID and the opportunity to do work remotely as an opportunity to relocate somewhere else. So they go to a place that's, frankly, housing is less competitive financially, where they can continue to work and not be in such an expensive area. Is that something we ought to be afraid of for the future?
Well, what I think it does is, and I think it's a really great example, is that if you have, you know, a young couple that's starting their career and they were used to going to their office and they were on their job for a couple of years and they get married and they're living in an apartment and they discovered that it's easier for them to work from home remotely and their salaries have gone up. They're out here right now looking for, you know, housing within the county. And housing within the county, as we know, is not inexpensive. I don't know what the median price of a house in the county is, but I would imagine that it's probably somewhere in the $500,000 range. So these guys are driving the housing market. In fact, couples are moving out of DC where housing costs more and into Montgomery and Prince George's County. And when you look at, you know, the demographics of our county and where people are moving, our growth in the middle of the county and up to 29 corridor and towards Clarksburg, you know, it's outstanding what's growing there. So people got to live somewhere. And I think that's what happened.
But again, what you just said reinforces my point. The reason why all this is being done is when financial institutions have a nearly risk-free product they can invest in and sell their investors on. Well, why wouldn't they be doing that? Because what is $500,000? That's $500,000. And for a relatively small home on a postage stamp lot, where the only thing you're close to is another place where you can go and spend more money, that's not worth it. That's a scam. And that should be stopped by having more of the free market, not either rent control on one side or subsidies on the other.
Phil, you know, the biggest disagreeer with you in this is going to be the growing population of people over 65 in Montgomery County. And the majority of them are living in, you know, apartments. So you look at the Renters Coalition. Right now, you know, a landlord can increase his rent by 1.5% to 2%. There's talk in the county of raising that limit. It's probably not going to pass. But you have to take into consideration all of us who have worked, you know, all of our lives, who want a fair, decent place to live, who can't be priced out of the county. I certainly don't want to return to poor folks' homes like we had in the 20s.
Yeah, but you know, nothing stops the county from increasing taxes by more than 1.5% or 2%. Nothing stops prices from increasing by more than 1.5% or 2%. Nothing stops people from coming over and saying, hey, the washer is broken and this is broken and that's broken and we got to fix it. So it's got to come from somewhere. And a landlord's pocket isn't endless.
Well, we'll have to make that the closeout for that. And when we return, we'll hear parting shots.